Welcome to another episode of the Rebecca Saunders Show. I'm joined today by the fabulous Donna Hann, who runs She's in Business. Welcome to the show, Donna.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm super excited that you're here. You and I have known each other now a couple of years through
Her Empire.
Yeah, through Her Empire Builder. And the way you work's always been really interesting to me because we're at complete polar opposites when it comes to home and family life. And building thriving businesses. And I don't know how mums manage to build businesses when they've got children running around. Like, I don't know how you do it. You're like a superwoman.
It's pretty tough at times, but it is totally possible.
I find myself filling my days completely. So I'm really curious to deep dive with you into why you do what you do in terms of helping other mums come out of mumdom and just create something amazing and build the life of their dreams. Tell me more about how this started.
Oh, wow. I love the word mumdom. I'm going to totally use that. So I live in a sunny seaside town in Queensland. We're a regional, so we're about 600 k's north of our nearest city, which is Brisbane. And I have in my family two very active, boisterous boys, and of course my husband too. But following, I guess, the footsteps of my parents in watching them create something from nothing when I was small, it's just been, I think, in my blood. I've always had an itch and a fascination with business ownership. And so I've grown and sold 3 different businesses over my time. This is now my 4th business. And the reason I guess I do what I do now, which I'll share with you in a moment, is because I realized as Donna, that I needed more than just being a mum. For me, I've had businesses before having kids and since having kids, and the challenges are quite different. But that juggle of starting and growing businesses whilst raising a family is what led me to what I do now with She's in Business. So I essentially empower and support women, primarily mums, who are either wanting to reshape their existing business or start a business from scratch without going down that path of burnout. So I'm a business coach and I help female entrepreneurs go from feeling overwhelmed and exhausted and potentially on that path to burnout to thriving. So, we do this through private coaching. I also have a group coaching program that I run. I do some small events in my local area and I speak at conferences and stuff like that. It's something that I'm really passionate about because, as I said before, I've had the opportunity of growing a business without kids, and it's a very different challenge when you've got kids in tow. As much as we love the darling little things that they are, it's a big journey. And I have myself been on the brink of burnout before. It's also at times impacted my marriage, which I'm a total open book, so you can ask me all about that. But thankfully, I had the business experience to know that I needed to shift and change things for the season of life that I'm in, depending upon what season my kids are currently traveling through. And that's essentially what has helped me to establish that healthy work-life blend, which is what I teach through my programs and helping other talented, amazing women lean into their superpower, whatever that is within their ideal business, but do it in a way that doesn't have them burning out.
I love that so much. And that story of burnout is so front of mind right now after what has been a crazy number of years for all of us in business and around the world. So that stopping burnout and stopping getting to even to the edge of near burnout is really something I want to deep dive into in a minute. But you spoke about this is your 4th business. You've had businesses pre and post kids. Have you always run your own show, or was there a time where you did go to do a 9 to 5 and have a job? Yeah. And what was that journey for you going from that into business with kids?
Yeah, cool. Well, it's as our journey is through life, it's not necessarily a straight line. It's very convoluted. So I started my first business when I was at university because I wanted to top up my income whilst also, doing the regular jobs that you do at university, like cafe jobs and bar jobs and stuff like that.
Hospitality joy.
Oh, it's the best, right? And so that was in kids party entertaining. So I would get you know, I was
Okay.
enrolled in university, was all about theatre arts. So I was there doing my theatre arts degree. And so it just went hand in hand that I could turn up and be a party entertainer for kids, right? And so I guess the thing that separated me from other people is that I was making sure that I was actually serving the parents rather than just the kids. So it was all about making sure that the experience for the parents was simple and easy so that they could socialize with their friends, and I took care of the kids. So it worked really well. And then I kind of decided that I wanted a break from uni, and I wanted a break from just kind of, I guess, essentially at that time it was almost like burnout from university. I'm like, I need a break. I need to go and earn some really big bucks because I don't want to eat baked beans for the rest of my life, being that I am a struggling performer, you know, like the typical,
creative story. Yeah.
Right. And so I went and worked in construction. So I put on hard hat boots and steel cap boots and a hard hat, and I went out to the Pilbara, so in Western Australia, like the most remote places, and I worked surrounded by blokes, which is very different from being a performer that's all about sparkles and, you know, dancing and all of that kind of stuff, to then being surrounded by male aggressive energy. And I describe it as aggressive energy because it kind of was like, it was a really weird space to be. But in that space, I found myself working in training and development. And over time, in working there for a few years doing fly in, fly out, I was involved in a leadership program. And that was amazing. That, I think, seeded my fascination with leadership and also with training and development. And I now look back on that and go, oh, well, it makes perfect sense that I needed to do that because it absolutely fits what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And then came back from that. We decided to move from Western Australia to Queensland for a job that I'd secured nearby to here. And once we arrived, similar to what you've been through this year, we decided to get married. We had that all planned out. So we got married, and for us, we wanted to start a family quite quickly. And so I remember having this conversation with my husband in our little garden shed going, I don't want to put boots and a hard hat on anymore. I want to meet women. I want to build my network because I don't want to be having babies and have no support because our family is not here. We're on the other side of the country to our family, and just like you're separated from yours, it can be challenging when you know that you've got these little people that you're wanting to bring up. So that was the end of that career for me. And then it wasn't that far after having my first baby that I got the itch to do something, to use my brain in a different way, which is when I started my second business with kids in tow.
Yeah,
that was a long-winded answer.
No, and you've done, you know, you've gone from being super creative at uni to doing almost the polar opposite, right, of that in terms of that first career move. And then your businesses since then have been relatively creative, right? Number 2 and number 3 have been super creative businesses that you could grow when the kids are all growing up. And you've obviously built business number 4 to help other women do the same thing, which is incredible, because when you're at the start of the journey, particularly if you're in a regional space, having just moved to a regional town myself, I know I'm now looking for, okay, who are those business connections? How do I make a network of people that are thinking in the same way that I think? You know, where have you started to see that percolate in your hometown? Is it mostly regional areas that are coming to you and going, I need some of your energy because I'm really loving this? Or is it women from a total wide spectrum, you know, city and country life? Like who's really gelling with that vibe and really harnessing that story that I know that you share so passionately during the work that you do?
Yeah, I guess I've got a really lovely local following that is really blooming at the moment, but I have really been nurturing that as well, because the power of being in a regional area is that there is this beautiful sense of reciprocity that happens in regional places, where if I help you here, then they'll help you there. Not to say that that's why I do what I do is for that reciprocity, but it's one of the things that is really special about being in a regional area. And certainly I'm seeing that. They too want to help other people. So they'll be like, hey, have you heard of Donna? Or have you heard of such and such? Or have you heard about this new app that started for business owners that I've learned from here and here? And they share so openly with one another. So yeah, like the local area in which I live are very much there, but I also attract women from all over the place. Like I've got a few coaching clients. I've got one who's in Sweden, which is amazing. And yeah. And then I've got a few ladies who are from the UK who joined the Ready to Rise program as well. So the beautiful thing, as you know as well, Beck, is that when you have an online business, it doesn't matter where people are. They will find you if they need you. And it's just a great space to be able to help as many people as possible. And so, yeah, that regional piece, yes, definitely I attract regional people both locally, but also like via the online space. But I also get people too who are sort of more towards the inner city that are interested as well. Because I think the thing is, it's about finding what it is that lights you up. What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you're skilled in? And then putting the business skills around that to allow that idea to fly. And so I don't think it really matters where you are. It can happen, right?
I love that. It totally can happen. I mean, I've got all the post-it notes around me that reminds me that anything is possible and I can do it. So, you know, it's all possible from wherever you are in the world and whatever stage of life and business you're at. There's always the need for that community piece around you, virtually and physically, to boost you forward. Now, you spoke earlier of the fact that it's different stages of life. We go through different phases as we're building ourselves and our businesses that go with that. And it had a huge impact on potentially your marriage as part of that growth. You know, as we're going as women, as leaders from family worlds into business life and starting that new piece for us, it can be really confronting our dreams, what we're wanting to try and achieve, potentially get it or doing that. How was that happening? Did that audio drop out?
Yeah, it did. I was trying to hang on to your words, but I couldn't hear you. You're a bit of a robot there.
That's all right. For some unknown reason, my studio phone was ringing. When did it stop?
You just said you started asking me a question about how seasons of life affected stuff. And
okay.
Yeah.
I can do that again. Okay. You know what it is? I can tell you exactly why that happened in a minute. But anyway, we're on with the show.
Okay.
So we'll just do a big cut for Steph to know that we're cutting it there. Okay. So you talked there earlier about needing and to go through those different stages of life for business and ourselves. And as we're going through life and going on that journey, our dreams and our desires are consistently changing. And it's hard sometimes to find that self-confidence to actually take the leap and jump for that next thing, particularly having those conversations with our nearest and dearest around what we want to do and them not fully understanding it, right? Like not fully getting it. I know my husband goes, you make money how? Like, is that really going to work? You know, we have those conversations on a regular basis. You touched on earlier that, you know, your journey has definitely had an impact on your marriage in certain places and certain times. Mm-hmm. What was that like for you? And how did you navigate that to the point that you're out the other side thriving again?
Yeah, that's a big question. I guess, where do I start with this? So to give context to kind of what happened with our marriage. So I had a really thriving, amazing dance studio. I was super passionate about it, loved it, went back to that creative side again, but had all of the learnings from running businesses previously, being that it was at that stage my third business. And we had at the time I started that business, my eldest was 3 and my youngest was 6 months. So
little.
really little.
Yeah.
And also, you know, toddlers are challenging at that 3-4-year-old stage. And so are 6-month-old babies when they start moving around and, you know, they don't just sit still all the time. And my husband works massive hours himself. So he still works in that, in the oil and gas construction realm, that industry. And so he works massive hours, sometimes day shift, sometimes night shift. And so we had essentially become like ships in the night, where we just weren't communicating well anymore. You know, we were high-fiving each other at the door. He was jumping in and taking care of the kids while I was going out to teach classes, you know, of the evenings, and it just wasn't working, right? And so we got to the point where we'd ignored it for too long. And then all of a sudden we both kind of not woke up one day, but, you know, essentially realized that this is not the one life that I want to live. If I only get to do this once, it needs to be in a relationship that fills me up and has me feeling supported and understood, and exactly what you were talking about. But also for me, the big thing was I wanted to really demonstrate to my boys what a healthy marriage looked like, because we could have kept going the way that we were going and just kept ignoring it, but it wouldn't have been the marriage model that I wanted my kids to appreciate and know and model their relationships in the future from. And so that was the big turning point for us. I decided that I wanted to actually move out of our family home, which I did, and we worked out, you know, looking after the kids and all of that kind of stuff. But it was an opportunity, I guess, for me to get really clear about what my value set was and what I actually wanted to create for myself going forward, and how I could create something that supported what our family unit needed. And of course, my husband was included in that forward visioning. And I think the thing is, when you have these big ideas and you really want to follow your passion, which I believe everybody should have the right to do, right? Just because you're a mum doesn't mean that the other side of you, the ambitious, creative, savvy side of you, should stop and should be dampened. That's not fair. I don't believe that that's okay, because eventually that's going to come out somewhere. And we all have the right to be happy and do what really fills us up and lights us up. And so that's why I help mums who are made for more, because it's, you know, it eventually eats you up, right? So yeah, I think it's about getting really clear around what you want, how you can make that work for your season of life, and then be flexible around that. So I sold that dance studio because I realized it actually wasn't the right business model for my family unit, because after school hours, when the kids need me to do footy practice and all of those things, I'm teaching in the studio. That doesn't work, you know? And so it was that decision of going, okay, I need to move into a different phase of life now, and it's okay, I can let go of this business that I've created, because I can create something else if I want to. And that's essentially what I did. But I was very, very intentional about the business that I currently am working through, and going, how do I want this to shape up? What's it going to look like? Where does my energy need to go? And how can I make sure it's flexible so that we can go on family holidays whenever we want to, or I can, you know, work around going to school and watching them get a certificate if I hear about it the same week that that's happening.
The morning of.
Because, you know, that sometimes happens. And it works, right? But I think in answer to your question about the communication piece, it's about being courageous in speaking what you feel in your heart, and having the kind of partner that will hold space for you, which can be tricky sometimes. But it might also just be that phrasing of, hey, this is really important to me. I just need you to listen to this. This is something that I'd like to pursue, or I need your support here. And that can be tough sometimes when you're juggling the responsibilities of parenting and you haven't got family support because you live regionally or on the other side of the world, or wherever you are, from grandparents and aunties and uncles and stuff that you can rely on. You have to work together as a team and say, look, I really want to go to this conference. I know that that means that you may have to take some annual leave to be able to be with the kids and get them off to school, but it's actually really important to me. And if there's a way that we can make this work, that would be amazing. And then just see if you can work it out. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, you know.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. You know, I completely resonate with the story that you've just shared in terms of needing that space and that break. Like we've only just got married, as you said earlier, and I'm not moving out of our family home in any stretch of the imagination right now, or in the future, as far as I can see. But I have just been on a 6.5-week trip without my husband for work, conference, and a little bit of family time in the UK. And I needed that time away from the day-to-day of everyday churn to get my head straight and have that clarity of thought. So I think no matter how you go and do that, no matter what that looks like, it could be a weekend away every month, or it could be, a huge chunk of time like I've done, or an even bigger chunk of time like you've done in your journey. It's having the time and the space, the mental space, to actually think about what that next piece is, because that's really where the magic happens, when you've got that clarity.
And it can also be really tiny moments of pause as well. So when my kids were really small, there was no moments of pause. Like to think about taking a whole weekend away from myself or even longer, just wasn't possible. It couldn't work at that stage. Yeah. So for me, it's going to sound really silly, but I would, at the end of the night, like once the kids were in bed, I'd go and like change out the nappy bucket, right? And so I would take the bag of dirty nappies out to my my green Stilo bin, your community bin, and that would be my moment just to pause. So I'd put the nappies in the bin, and then I'd step out into the center of my front lawn. I'd look up at the stars and just take a moment to breathe and be like, okay, you've got this, Don's. Like, yes, it might have been a crappy day, or it might have been a really great day, but let's just take a moment to pause and reflect on where you are right now. And it can be those small moments of time, but those are really important because you need to allow your nervous system just to breathe and settle for a moment. But I think also you've got to tune into you. And so often I speak to particularly mums in business who have lost themselves because they've either lost themselves in the role of the mum or lost themselves in the role of the business owner. And that's where their identity is wrapped up in. And you take those things away and you're like, who the fuck am I now? And that's really dangerous. So that's where those small moments of pause to really tune into what's going on for you is important. I think the other things in relation to business specifically is having a bit of a big picture view of what does the next 12 months to 5 years look like, and knowing that because you've also got a family that you're raising, it's going to take a little bit longer than possibly someone who doesn't have those responsibilities, because you can't necessarily work like big long stretches at once, because you've got to have little people in between there that you've got to raise and service and feed and do all the other things. So it's about having that extra level of patience, which I find really hard because I'm ambitious. I want it now. I'm prepared to work hard for it, and I can work really hard for it. But sometimes the other responsibilities of life actually restrict how hard you actually can work, because you've also got to put time into them. So that can be really tricky. But the other piece as well is that fear setting piece, which I know part of what you do with the podcast is about having that courageous energy to step outside of your comfort zone. And that can be tough, but it's about understanding. And that's where those little moments of pause come in. It's about questioning yourself and going, what is it that's holding me back here? What is the thing that's stopping me? What's keeping me small? What is the fear that I'm really feeling? Because we can layer all this other stuff on top and disguise it. But when we have the moments to pull all of that away and really understand what the bones of it is that's stopping you from progressing that little bit further, or trying something new, or even, making the decision that, yes, I'm going to start a business, those small moments to actually unpack that is really important, I think, as well.
Oh, hugely so. And you and I are both now, I know it because we talked about it just before we were starting, and I've seen your socials around it. We're both going into that slow down, plan the next year mode, get all those things in place, pop those boundaries in, reflect on what we've done great, and more so what we haven't done great this year, because both are equally important. And it doesn't matter where you are at the business journey. You could be running a small business, or a multi-million-dollar business, or even bigger than that. You still do the same task to go, where am I at? What
Mhm.
have I done well? What could have been progressed? Did I stick to my boundaries that I wanted to? All those things is now what should be percolating in your mind as to what the next 12 months looks like. Because unless you dig into those fear things and look at what you want and how you're going to get there, you're going to be in the same place in the next 12 months if you don't do anything about it.
It's about that intentionality, isn't it? In going, okay, if I'm here and I've identified that these are the areas that I want to work on next year, how do I make that happen as efficient and effective as I possibly can? And sometimes, well, a lot of the time, what I believe, and I know you are too, a really big believer in professional development, in getting the things that you need to progress to that next level of your business. And if you don't know what it is, there's so much out there that you can find it, be it a book to learn how to do it, whether it's a group coaching course or an online course, or whether you need private coaching, whatever it is, it's out there. It's about really, again, having the courage to invest in yourself and not feel guilty about it or not doubt it because of what you think, other people will think of that. If you're thinking about what your partner might be like, well, how come you're spending thousands on that? You're right at the start of your business journey. Yes, but you can see the potential of where it can take you in the future. And it's that self-belief, which is, you have to hold strong, right? Like, there will be times where we all go through it, where we're stepping into that new level, new devil, and you have all of those self-limiting beliefs and that nasty voice that comes up in your head and says, oh, you can't do that. You're not skilled enough to do that. Who do you think you are that you can, we all go through that, right? I know I have those inner thoughts at different times, but then I also have really strong self-belief as well. And it's almost like the little angels on your shoulder, like the devil and the angel that goes chatter, chatter, chatter. You've got to make sure that you're feeding that angel that self-belief and have the positive self-talk rather than the negative self-talk. And that comes from practice as well. Hey.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. My little negative voice is very, very, very rarely there these days. So I'm very much a huge advocate for that personal development. And again, the constant need to keep revisiting it and redoing it. Now, Donna, I know that when this episode goes live, you have an event not long afterwards around that reflect, reimagine, and plan, if I got that right, for 2023 that you've got coming on, and you're running it online so that if people are listening to this the week it comes out, could jump into that and learn more and just get the foot in the door and start that plan for 2023. Where can they find out more about this event and when is it happening?
Yeah, so it's happening on I'm doing an early one on the 10th of November. I'm not sure when this is coming out, whether it's going to be around that time. So the 10th of November is when we're doing the online reflect, reimagine, and plan for 2023. You can go to donnahann.com/reflect if you want to go and grab a ticket for that one. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is a business health check. So we do a whole health check through the 6 core areas of your business. We also do the wheel of life and look at, well, how does that affect other areas of your business? So it's other areas of life. So it's really holistic. And then we look at the things that are working, the things that maybe didn't. What do you want to shape for your year ahead that's going to have you feeling happier, healthier, and in harmony with your inner knowing, but also your passion and your purpose. So it's a really beautiful workshop that I've delivered a few times now, and at the end of it you get a 1-page plan that we actually populate. We do it together so that then you can pop that up somewhere in your office or somewhere where you walk past all the time to remind yourself of your intention for the new year and bring yourself back to that positive center if you feel like the wheels start to wobble during the year. And it's just a really great tool to have. And you get the downloadable workbook so you can rinse and repeat it whenever you feel like you need a bit of a top up of that good energy.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that there's that takeaway piece. I'm all for get it done, think about it in the moment and have it so you don't sit on it for so long and don't get it done. So I absolutely love that. And if you are listening to the podcast, watching the replay in terms of the video piece for this, if you're just starting out on that journey and you haven't done the reflection piece or any of the planning in terms of a 1-pager for the new year, I'd definitely be checking out Donna's event. We do things in a very similar way, and I know that what she's going to deliver in that is going to be absolutely phenomenal. So Donna, thank you so much for coming on the show and for
You're
sharing,
so welcome.
and just for giving us all that energy and that, you know, that vibe of anything really is possible, like, you know, regardless of where we're at in life with kids, it's all possible. So thank you very much for sparking that excitement once more.
Oh, you're so welcome. And, you know, likewise, you've been a guest on my podcast too. And it's always just so nice to share our superpowers and our thoughts around business and how we can amplify what we do in the way that really helps other people as well. So yeah, thanks for having me on, and really enjoy chatting to you. It's always good.
Always fun. And thanks for listening. Enjoy charging your superpower.